We'll now move on to look at loop-in statements. These statements enable you to execute a number of lines repeatedly, either a given number of times or while a condition is true. In this video, we'll look at one of the most frequently used of these loop-in statements, the for next loop. Let's begin by looking at the basic syntax. And let's call it for next basics. To control a for next loop, you need a counter. And there's a tradition in most programming languages where you use the throwaway name I as the name of the counter. Then the basic syntax is for counter equals start value to end value. Then you have a series of statements and you close the structure with next and you repeat the name of the counter. The benefit of doing this is that if you have one for next statement within another, repeating the name of the counter in the closing statement allows you to see where each of your loops ends. So for this first basic example, let's say that we want to loop through the quarters in a year. So we know that there are 4 quarters, the first of which is 1, and the last of which is 4. So that takes care of our start and ending value. Then our counter is called I, so we replace that with I. And for our statements, let's simply have 1, MSG box, we'll have the word quarter, followed by I. So when we run, when looping in this way, it's sometimes the case that you don't want to loop sequentially. You want to jump in certain steps. For example, if we had an application that was working with the months of a year, but we currently wanted to process only the last month in each quarter, we'd need to start on month 3 and then jump in steps of 3. Let's look at how that's done. I'll just switch back to full module view and let's just copy this sub-procedure and just paste it after the original and rename it. So it's macro B and let's call it for next steps. So we're going from 3 to 12. But the main thing is we use the keyword step, and then it's going to be, in this case, 3. So here we'll have month, and then let's run. So we go from 3 to 6 to 9, and then we stop when we get to 12. You can also use the step parameter to loop in reverse. This is often required where you're deleting elements, and we'll see examples of this throughout the course. So I'll copy this one again. And for macro C, for next reverse. So we simply reverse these 4 to 1. Now if we don't put the step and we try to run it, absolutely nothing will happen. Because to get from the start value to the end value, where step isn't specified, VBA will always add 1 by default. So if you add 1 to the start value of 4, you get 5. You're going in the wrong direction, so the end value has already been surpassed, and therefore nothing inside the loop will be executed. So we simply have to put step -1 to tell VBA that we actually want to add -1 to get from start value to end value. One very common use of for next loops is to loop through all the items within a collection of Word objects, such as all the documents that are currently open, all the paragraphs in a document, all the tables in a document, and so forth. VBA also contains a variation on the for next loop specifically for that purpose. Let's have a look at how this works. Let's say we want to loop through all the documents which are currently open and do something with them. In our case, we'll simply display their names. So the syntax here is for each next. I'll just switch across to procedure view for a moment. And the key difference between the for each structure and the for next that we've already seen is that you don't use an integer counter, you simply use an object variable to loop through the object collection. So because we're working with documents, we'll need a document variable. Let's just call it doc. And the syntax is generically for each object variable in object collection. Then we have our statements, and we close it with next, and then we repeat the name of the object variable. So in this case, the object variable we've defined is called doc. The collection that we're looping through is the documents collection. So here we'll need to repeat the name of the object variable doc, and for our statements we'll simply say msgbox followed by the name of the document. So we can say doc.name. At the moment we only have one document open, the template that we put in the macro in. So when we run, we simply get the name of that one document. And of course, if I go back into Word and create a new document, then run the macro once more, I now get document 1 and the original document that I had open. Let's just close that unwanted document. So most of the time where you want to loop through an object collection, this is the best way to do it. However, you can still use a for next loop, and one of the benefits of doing that is that you have the counter at your disposal, which you can use to fine-tune how the looping is actually executed.